The UFC is facing a disaster at UFC 310. I roll out of my bed, I look on my phone, I open up X, and what do I see? Belal Muhammad is out of the main event against Shavkat Rakhmonov. UFC 310 was supposed to have 2 title fights up top on that card, and I guess the Alexander Pantoja fight versus Kai Asakura was the co-main event, and I guess the plan was, God forbid something happened, you could just bump that up to the main event. I don't think that is enough star power, but you might be doing a little switcheroo over here. Alex Pantoja could be the headlining fight, and then Shavkat Rakhmonov could be facing someone else. It's a very dangerous thing. You cannot put an interim title on the line here. I know the UFC loves to do this, and I know the UFC would love to have multiple title fights, but Shavkat fighting for an interim strap makes absolutely no sense. Do not Tom Aspinall this situation. You look at Belal Muhammad, whatever is going on with him, whether it's an injury or, I don't know, his puss is hurt. Who the hell knows what's going on with Belal? Hopefully it's not too serious. Belal won the title against Leon Edwards in July. I mean, we're not talking very long ago. July of this year, Belal won the title and turning it around. And only a couple of months later, you know, I mean, you can't strip him. You can't say interim shot. It just doesn't make any sense. Please, MMA gods out there, do not make this for an interim title. We're going to discuss what are the options here. Man, this is some crappy news because I was really looking forward to this fight. Now, I will say this. I made a prediction video a couple of months back about a guy named Joaquin Buckley and how he will be the welterweight champion. This is the perfect opportunity for me to be right once again. I mean, Joaquin Buckley is sitting at ranking of number 9. Now, that's a massive leap up top. Rakhmonov is at number 3. A 9 versus 3 matchup is not far-fetched. A 9 versus 3 matchup for a title, well, that makes absolutely no sense. Shavkat does deserve a shot against Belal Muhammad, sitting at number 3. But, I mean, 9-3 interim strap, it doesn't make any sense. Would I like to see it for my prediction and for Joaquin Buckley to shock the world? Yeah, for sure. I would love to see that. Not going to happen. The second thought that went into my mind is Ian Machado Gary. Ian Gary is sitting at number 7, and the 15-0-0 phenom / some say cuck. I mean, he's marching up the rankings, and he's already spoken about how he could beat Shavkat, who he's trained with before in the past. And he's on some roll. He just came off the win against MVP. That was June 29th. And listen, Ian Gary versus Shavkat is a fascinating fight. That's a great fight. Will that be for an interim strap? No, it shouldn't be. Ian number 7 versus number 3 Shavkat Rakhmonov. If you're thinking juice, well, it's not quite bad. You know, if you headline the card by Pantoja and Kai Asakura, and the co-main is Shavkat versus Ian Gary, it's got some hype. It's got a lot of people making those crazy Ian Gary videos. Ian Gary's got that ridiculous trash talk, and Shavkat is the boogeyman of the weight class. So it is interesting. Another guy that jumped out into my head was Kamaru Usman. And I got to be honest with you, if there was an interim title on the line, I wouldn't mind seeing this. Now, would I be happy it's for the interim title? No, but it kind of, to me, makes the most sense, as Kamaru Usman lost his belt at Leon Edwards, and then when he returned, it was short notice against Khamzat Chimaev. And a lot of people would look at this and say, 3 fights in a row, you lose. How the hell would you earn a title shot? Well, listen, look at his resume. I mean, Kamaru is up there as one of the greatest welterweights of all time. In my mind, is one of the greatest welterweights of all time. As cringy as he is, you can't discredit what he has done in his career. I mean, you look at all the title defenses and Leon Edwards, that head kick that happened the first time, well, fight number 2, was a Kamaru Usman win. He was winning that fight until he got cracked in the head. Now, the rematch or the trilogy fight against Leon Edwards, well, it didn't really look that great for Kamaru. And then he bounces back against Khamzat Chimaev, you know, a little banged up, short notice, goes up a weight class, and puts it to Khamzat. In fact, wins the final round against Chimaev. We saw how good Chimaev looked against Robert Whittaker. Usman in a 5-round fight against Khamzat, you could make an argument that he beats Khamzat Chimaev. So Kamaru Usman versus Shavkat Rakhmonov is not only a fascinating fight, but But this guy has put in his time. He did the UFC a favor in that last fight where he didn't have to come in short notice and take on Khamzat Chimaev. He did the UFC a favor to save a card, and it wound up being a fire fight, stopping majority of the takedowns. And I mean, come on, Kamaru is a beast. Even though he's a little later in his career, the guy still got it. So you can bend the rules. You can make exceptions. You can say, hey, you know what? Kamaru Usman slipping in there is not a bad idea. Am I for it? Yes, but not for an interim strap. Let's keep looking at the rankings here. I mean, Jack Della Maddalena, I mean, you could make an argument. He's looked pretty good lately. You could make an argument for him versus Shavkat. It's 4 versus 3. It's a good fight. Don't see interim strap for that. I would actually rather see Kamaru, to be honest. I would rather see Ian Gary. I would rather see Buckley. Nothing against Jack Della Maddalena. I mean, he is right there in the mix. But I don't know, as a fan, he's lower. As much as I would like to see the fight, he's lower on my list of people I'd like to see fight Shavkat. Now, the guy that could save it all and would literally lock down Fighter of the Year, well, that's right, Chama, Alex Pereira. Could you imagine if Alex Pereira, who said he wanted to come back next year, he wanted to take a little time off, recuperate, rest up, get ready for another title defense, or perhaps go up a weight class or whatever, Alex Pereira would legitimately be a banger, an absolute banger main event for the final card of the year, no matter who he fights, because, I mean, look at the year he's had. If he fights again, headlining and saving another card, he locks himself up for Fighter of the Year, puts the title on the line. Ankalaev is there, who may turn it around quickly for a shot at gold. There are other fighters that you could throw at Alex Pereira, like Jan Blachowicz, which I feel like he's being silenced. What's up with Blachowicz? You could run that fight back with Alex Pereira, and it would kind of make sense. Let's see, who else? Jamal Hill's been barking a lot about Alex Pereira. There's a lot of guys nipping at light heavyweight that you can throw out there and say, yeah, that would be a banger against Alex Pereira. But the fight that would entertain me is you take Tommy Aspinall, who is sitting standby for John Jones, Stipe Miocic. You take Tommy Aspinall and you make Alex Pereira go up and fight Tom Aspinall. Now, I know Tom has the interim strap, but if you're going to make a fight with some crazy interim strap and some crazy fairy tale story, Alex Pereira going up and being the heavyweight champion, or a chance at being the heavyweight champion against Tom Aspinall, a short notice throw together to end the year, that to me is glorious. That's something that's so interesting. Alex taking a swing at the heavyweight shot. You don't have to worry about Alex Pereira cutting any weight. Tom Aspinall is already getting ready to fight in November in case someone pulls out. But if you switcheroo and put that together, come on. Now we're talking. I know it's a long shot. I know that's probably not high on the list of things that UFC would put together, but come on. Hear me out, man. That is something that I would like. So if you look at this card here, Kai Asakura versus Alexander Pantoja, maybe not the fireworks household name situation that you could throw as a main event for UFC 310, although it will get a lot of international eyes because of the Japanese star making his debut and fighting for a title, which is interesting. It still feels massively co-main. Cyril Gane versus Volkov, I mean, that's a pretty solid fight. Winner gets a shot at the gold once that's all hashed out at top with the champions. Evlov versus Sterling on that card is a firefight. Nick Diaz on that card. Listen, the fans love Nick Diaz, right? So it should be an interesting fight. It's going to be a train wreck. Anthony Smith versus Dominic Reyes is a banger, considering Dominic Reyes is on the comeback. Dom looks like vintage Dom. Anthony Smith, on the other hand, well, forget, I don't know, whatever. Guida versus Chase Hooper, that's a fan fight right there. Michael Chiesa versus Max Griffin, good fight. Cody Durden, baby. Multiple-time MMA-Hole appearance, Durden versus Joshua Van. Whoo, boy, oh boy, that's a good fight. Teixeira versus Bresky, solid fight. Randy Brown versus Brian Battle. I mean, after Brian Battle's last appearance, becoming the heel, and Rude Boy, a very good striker. This card it's pretty solid, but you do need something juicy at top. You really do need that. So listen, I threw out a bunch of options, but the UFC is pretty screwed in this scenario, because a lot of things that I would like to see are really not quite realistic. If you're thinking realistic, most likely Pantoja versus Asakura is going to be your main event. If the UFC tries to put together an interim strap for the main event, UFC 310, we riot unless it's Alex Pereira versus Tom Aspinall.